On today's episode, we're going to be talking about religious OCD. When does one become judgmental of one's particular own faith tradition? Maybe go to a church and maybe you notice the music's a little bit different, or maybe one has more icons and another church has less icons. Maybe you notice slight differences in the faith tradition. How worked up should we really become of that? Also, how it sounds very Puritanism. How worked up should we get up about numbers or small little superstitions? If you move to a house that has maybe one or two numbers with the number 6 in it, should you get fixated on that? Or you have a phone number with the number 6 in that? Should you feel that's a bad omen? There was an interesting movie made a few years ago by Jim Carrey, The Number 23. And the character in this movie, his name was Bob, if I remember correct. And if you did this mathematical equation with the number 23, the name Bob would turn into 666. And in the movie, he got obsessed with the number 666. And I just thought it was an interesting concept, how some people struggle with like this religious OCD. Again, looking for bad omens or good omens, or getting fixated on numbers, places, locations. If my next door neighbor is an immoral person, should I be worked up about that with my own personal life? Or if there's problems in the church, how worked up should I become? Or getting fixated about numbers or personal hygiene. How seriously and how rigorously should I really focus on my religious life? David, go.
Well, when something is obsessive, it's taking up your life. When something is compulsive, you are reacting mechanically. You're not even, your will and your any sense of liberty is not present in it. So you use those sorts of illustrations, but I'm inclined to think that, well, let me give you a historical example first, and then maybe we should talk about where we see it in our own religious communities, or at least query how this might be at work. One of the great examples, there are many examples in the lives of saints. All kinds of saints had OCD. I mean, this is very common if you read the lives of saints. But a very grand one, which changed the world, would have been Martin Luther. And when Martin Luther, as an Augustinian monk, would go to confession to his spiritual father, Johannes Staupitz, the confessions would last for several hours. And he would do it 3-4 times a week. And this went on for some time, until finally Johannes Staupitz said to Martin Luther, "Martin, you keep worrying that God can't love you. What I have seen in you through your confessions here is that you are really angry with God. And so you have no peace." Luther suffered from what in German is called Anfechtungen, a profound sense of unworthiness. And he was obsessively, compulsively engaged in that. He couldn't get free of it. Couldn't get free of it. So I certainly have known priests, Roman Catholic and Orthodox, who have spoken to me about habits that develop in some people within confession, where they keep revisiting the same trouble over and over and over again. Or, what also can commonly occur, they use confession to revisit the trouble that somebody is causing them over and over and over again. That is, they make a confession of the sin of another person as if that's theirs to do. This is a form of suffering, to be troubled in that way. And I suppose there can be, at the bottom of it, there's as there was in Luther, a deep wound. And we know where that wound likely came from for Luther. It came from his father. His father never blessed him. So he was compulsively, and he transferred this onto God. That's normal. It's absolutely normal to do that. The tragedy is not having somebody help you realize it and diagnose it, and then help you discipline yourself so that that doesn't devour your life and rob you of life. We are made for life. We're made for a life of communion. We're not made for a rat wheel of our own neurosis, remaking the world in our own darkest images. So, the disciplines of the church are there to help us empty ourselves of these fantasies and evil memories of our neurosis, and to enlarge the space in our mind and our heart for responding in loving communion to others and to ourselves, which is often the most difficult. So I also have talked with many monastics and others who have talked about the obsessive compulsive approach to the prayer rope. For example, saying 1,000 knots every 3 hours or whatever they want to do it, or making 1,000 bows or prostrations. Now, I'm in no position to judge what is life-giving in that and what isn't. It certainly can be an obsessive compulsive behavior, and that can be in the elder that's giving it as much as it can be in the disciple that's taking it on. Where that occurs, it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy because you're just involved in deepening the sense of anxiety and the sense of being out of touch with life. If, as a discipline, it leads you to more joy, to a greater capacity to enter into the communion with God's world, then of course it's healing. And our ability to judge that in any other person, at least mine, is modest indeed. I don't think we need to do that. But if we see things being done in that compulsive way, we can take note of it and step aside of it.